a hungry little guy. Hungry little guy. What are we doing in the garden, Rue? That's right, we're eating vegetables. Look at these pepper plants. Absolutely bleed. Welcome to my garden. Welcome back to Permaculture with Pete. Today, I think I want to go over the importance of using a no-till and a wood chip method to gardening, especially if you're doing a food forest or a permaculture plot like what I'm doing. I want to go over a lot of the benefits as well while I'm talking about this, and show you what a huge difference it makes to our soil if you use this method compared to natural farming. I'm here in Florida. My family's property, we have 5 acres here, and it was surely an orange grove at one point. When we moved here, there were still some orange trees down one side of the property, and much of the property looked like this. It's sandy, super sandy. It's literally nothing but sand. And if I test it, there's absolutely no nutrients to it. It's very slightly acidic, but there's just nothing to it. The only thing that'll barely grow is weeds and grass, and sometimes the grass can't even grow in certain spots. And you'll see areas where the grass isn't growing in, like in this area. This kind of patch used to reach all the way back around that corner of the property. Those weeds are fixing that soil. That's a really good sign. Weeded up properties are typically healing properties. A lot of people don't know that, but nature has a lot of different plants that will grow and less nutrients than other plants. So as they grow and they collect nutrients, they grow up and then they die, and that nutrients ends up piling up on the surface. Very natural method in nature, and because of that, the soil starts to heal, and you kind of get the real version of what, as permaculture farmers, what we do. Permaculture farmers and food forest designers like to use a lot of wood chip mulch. We like to use a lot of mulch in general because nature builds these trees that reach up, and as they reach up, eventually stuff starts falling off. Things start to die and they fall back to the ground, kind of like this right here. Look at this. All of these flowers grew up this year, and as they reached up, they eventually died off, and they're falling back to the ground. Now, each one of those flowers threw seeds all over this area. And you can see that they've self-seeded themselves all around this little spot where my mama planted flowers this year. Even where I'm standing, there's more of them all the way over here that have self-seeded themselves. And all this stuff is gonna eventually keep falling and falling and falling, and it's going to turn right back into mulch on the ground. That's nature's method. It brings up nutrients through the soil, or through the roots, and builds a plant, and then lets that plant fall back down. It scatters its seeds everywhere, and you get layers and layers and layers of this woody and green leafy stuff all over the ground. So we want to replicate that. What I did with this plot about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, was I started laying down as much cardboard as I could across this, and as much wood chip mulch as I could find for free over it, and leaf mulch over it. And a year and maybe not quite a full year down the road, I had just enough finally to cover this entire plot. I started on this end of the plot and worked my way that way. And I want to show you what's happened to the soil over that amount of time. If I go down on this side of the plot, which was where I first started, and dig in, I've got mycelium growing all over in this. Mushrooms have just decided that they were gonna start eating this stuff all up. And then down below that, you have where it started to break down. Look how black and healthy that is. Then down below that, you can see the old layers. All that sandy soil. And all I've done is throw a bunch of wood chips down and cardboard to cut out the grass, and nature just took over. So it's really one of the best ways you can use to make a food forest or a garden plot. It does take time. It takes about a year to fill in a plot this size, but once it's done, I've got 3 to 4 inches of mulch and about 2 good inches of soil spread over this whole thing. This year, all I'm gonna do is dump more mulch on top of my areas that it's getting low. Like anywhere that I find that it might be a little bit low in the garden, I'm gonna come out and shake probably 5-gallon buckets is what I'm gonna end up doing over little areas to fill it in. I'm gonna go through and weed out all my weeds. Stuff like this, I'll pull out. And then I'll do like a bucket of mulch over top of that. Cover that back up. I may even plant some seeds there while I'm there. But what it allows you to do in like a year's time, you're able to go out in your garden plot and just drop seeds down into this mulchy soil now. And they start sprouting. Like, look at this whole corner. I've got sprouts right there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there. I've still got stuff from last season. Stuff I planted way back in spring. All this stuff has survived all year long. My blackberries are flourishing. I literally have stuff everywhere. This is probably gonna grow stuff all on its own with this method. The seeds that are inside that, when they start to rot and they go into the soil, that's gonna grow. Look at that. There's a cucumber. That is a massive oversized cucumber that I missed this year. Huh. Oh, keep that. We use that for seeds. And I went down this area the other day and started dropping like 1 or 2 seeds in the ground. And I've got a bunch of them popping up. I don't even water this stuff anymore. That's how great this method is. You literally spend the time and energy hauling mulch and cardboard like once a year. And once you get it all in, then you don't even have to worry about the cardboard anymore. You just keep dumping mulch on it and weed it out. And the weeds come out super easy because they're in mulch. Most of them are growing just on the layers of mulch. I'll show you the next really cool thing about this. If you choose to use this method, planting becomes this easy. You rough up a little spot like this, you throw some seeds in, cover it. That's all I do now. I pick a spot that doesn't have a whole lot growing, like right there. I throw some seeds in. A week, maybe 2 weeks later, I come back out and like a spot like this. So like I got some seeds that sprouted themselves a while back right there. Nothing over here came up. I'm gonna grab some seeds. I'm gonna throw them in. And what I do is I'm kind of a fascist when it comes to gardening. I don't water my seeds. I don't prune my seeds. I don't do anything out here anymore. I used to, when I very first started, water every once in a while, and that's why you'll see the hoses. Just if they were in a really bad drought. but I haven't watered in probably 6 months now. And this garden's doing great. The more mulch I put on it, the more moisture it holds, the more nutrients it holds, and the easier it gets. The next thing that I've been utilizing with this method, and why I'm so harsh with my plants like that, I don't give them this extra help, is I'll find plants that do better than other plants. Like, look at that corner. Those are all okras. Okras down this line. And for some reason, this puppy has done good. His seeds are gonna be the seeds that I wanna scatter all over this garden. I do the same thing with my watermelons. The biggest watermelons off the vine and the best looking vine, I'm gonna save a whole bunch of those seeds. Same thing with my peppers. My pepper plants that are producing the biggest peppers and producing a lot of peppers, I'm gonna save seeds off of that plant. And then I'm not gonna help them again for the next season. And by doing that, my plants get stronger and stronger and stronger. So it's a really interesting method to use. And if you're willing to let nature do its thing over time and perfect itself, almost like a forest would left alone without man, you end up with big, beautiful plants. The first season, it may be like this. I only had one good collard green, really, that did really well. But I'm gonna save seeds off of that. I'm not gonna save seeds off of this one. This one hasn't done nearly as well. These haven't done hardly anything. But that one over there, he did great. I'm gonna let him go to seed, and I'm gonna save seeds from him. And each year, by doing that, my garden gets stronger and stronger and healthier with very little effort. Same thing with things like onions like this. I don't mess with those at all either. And the best ones are the ones that I save. So I hope that helps you guys out. Soil, seeds, mulch. I think I talked enough now.